Hey, what's up? It's Randy from Lamb of God, and this is Tales from the Metalverse on Pandora. This is a story about my dear friends in the band Children of Bodom from Finland. Rest in peace, Alexi, their singer, who passed away a few years ago. But we toured with Bodom a lot. I can't remember exactly the first time I met them. But due to their nocturnal habits, I wound up riding their bus most of the time because I'm a night guy, and we'd stay up partying all night. And then during the day, the bus was quiet, unlike my bus. So I just moved into the Children of Bodom bus. I had my own bunk there. Done that with a few different bands, actually. But one time, I can't remember exactly what year it was, we were on tour, and we were on the bus. It was a travel day, and we were going through the desert somewhere in like Arizona or New Mexico, I believe. And the sun was up. It was coming up. It had been up for about an hour, and a few of us were still awake. All of a sudden, the bus pulled over the side of the road, and we were like, what's going on? And their tour manager, Noiby, ran into the back, and he's like, Border Patrol, Border Patrol. And we're like, shit. I had some stuff that is illegal, you know. This is back in the partying days. I'm a sober guy now. So I know I, for one, had some illegal substances. And we got off the bus. I grabbed what I could and put it into my pocket. And we, you know, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever. We walk out to the desert. And then there's the Border Patrol, and they look at us. It's 8. Most everybody's still drunk. We're all dressed in black, standing in the middle of the desert in Arizona or New Mexico, somewhere like that. And they come up and they start going on to the bus. They get us all off the bus. I guess they were looking for, a lot of times those Border Patrol checks are for illegal immigrants, you know, in that area. We did not have any illegal immigrants, but we had some illegal things. And the head guy is like, hey, okay, bring out the dogs. And I was like, shit, you know. So they bring their K9 unit on, and they call the guy for the K9 unit, and he shows up like, I guess he shows up, it was like 5 or 10 minutes. He was down the road. He shows up, and he gets out, and he's got his dogs, and I see him getting the dogs, and he's getting ready to walk over to the bus. And they had all of Bodom standing in one group because they were all from Finland with Finnish passports, and the rest of us in another group. They had some American crew and me riding their bus. And the dog handler is starting to walk towards the bus. And right as he gets near the bus, he looks over at our group, and he looks over at me, and he goes, "Are you from Richmond?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "Did you used to live on the 100 block of South Pine Street?" I'm like, "Yes, I did." He's like, "Dude, I live 2 doors down from you. I heard you were doing a band now." And I was like, "Yeah, man." And he's just like, you know, you guys just be careful. I don't think this is necessary. And he got back, told the captain or whatever. He's like, we probably should just let these guys go. Takes the dogs, get back in the car, and goes. And they like walk over and talk to the tour manager. And they're like, okay, you can go. You know, we all get back on the bus. It's dead silence. And all the guys in Bodom, because they didn't hear the conversation, just looked at me and they were like, what did you do? How did you do that? You know? Like, I'm magic, dude. I'm magic, you know? So it was like a lucky close call because I had a neighbor who wound up in the Border Patrol. Yeah, I was really good friends with the Bodom guys. They're super hilarious dudes. And I even have a tattoo, Children of Bodom Hate Crew tattoo. It's kind of a club. Basically a drinking club that we were all in, and that a lot of their fans were in. Just super sweet guys. It was very sad when their singer Alexi died a couple of years ago. He drank himself to death, basically. But really cool dudes, really, really fun to tour with, really funny guys. And they're Finnish, and they speak better English than most Americans do, as most Finnish people do. So it's kind of embarrassing when you're around them, you know. They pull out these 25-cent words that you don't hear the average American use. Great grammar as well. But I have a lot of Hatebreed stories, but I've known them for a long time. They're from Connecticut, very dear friends of mine. Their singer, Jamie Josta, has a podcast called The Josta Show. And just like Children of Bodom, I rode their bus a lot when we were on tour together. In fact, we called it Hatebreed Holiday. When I leave Lamb of God, and I just go ride with Hatebreed. It's like I'm on Hatebreed Holiday. But their bus driver, I'm pulling a trailer behind the bus, and he had a rechargeable four-wheeler. And I used to love to take the four-wheeler for a spin, you know. And we were in Denver, Colorado, playing outside Denver, and Ozfest was held outside the city in some residential neighborhood. And I got really hammered after our set, I guess. Or maybe it was before our set. I don't remember. I used to drink a lot. And I was bothering them for the keys to the four-wheeler. I'm like, come on, let me take the four-wheeler. They're like, no, Randy, you're drunk. And I just bothered them enough until they let me have the keys to the four-wheeler. I was cruising around Ozfest backstage, which is cool there. You know, you're allowed to do that. But then I got bored with that and decided to go out into a neighborhood, a nearby neighborhood. So I was on Hatebreed's four-wheeler, cruising along with a Heineken. They had a cup holder in it, and I'm just putting along, drinking a Heineken, and all of a sudden I hear, whoo, and a cop decided I should not be drinking and four-wheeling in the neighborhood, I guess. So he starts making the pull over, and I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna get a DUI on electric four-wheeler. And suddenly I realized, wait a minute, I'm on a four-wheeler and he's in his cop car. So I just started going through someone's yard. I'm like, I'm gonna see which way he goes this way, take off, start going through backyards, and the cop, of course, is circling the block. And I remember it took a good 5 minutes to lose him, just ripping through the neighborhoods. I remember I drove past a pool party at some point, and like people were like, what the fuck, and it's like, just cruising through cruising through this suburban Denver neighborhood on a four-wheeler. And finally, I made it back to the backstage entrance to the Ozfest, and boom, ran the four wheels straight up the ramp into the back of the semi, and I shut the semi doors real quick and ran onto their bus. And I was looking out the window, and all of a sudden, just cop cars come screeching into the backstage, and they're just looking for me. And the guys are like, what did you do? I'm like, nothing, dude, nothing. It's just for a little four-wheeler. And I can't remember how long I hid on their bus, but I did, and the cops eventually went away. But those guys were good sports. They have many, I don't know, wild stories in their past as well. So I can't believe they never beat me up, basically, because I would always cause them problems, but they're cool dudes, so they let it slide. I think they just kind of thought it was funny in the end. I think Hatebreed is responsible in no small part for bridging the gap between the heavy metal and hardcore punk communities. I think they've done a lot to bring those two communities together. They come from the hardcore scene, but wound up, Slayer took them out in the early days. They were one of the first hardcore bands that really got a lot of sort of attention in the metal world. There were others, but I think Hatebreed really led the charge for that. And their singer, Jamie, has done a lot for a bunch of different bands. He's a pretty selfless guy. And, they're my favorite cavemen. Love them to death. Thanks for checking out Tales from the Metalverse on Pandora.